Welcome back to In a Nutshell, and here are my thoughts on Demon's Souls. Before we dive into everything, I did want to give a little backstory of how I came about to play this game. As y'all know, PlayStation 5s are very hard to come by, and I just wanted to say that in October of 2020, I finally got my hands on a PS5 through Sony. I would have had it a little earlier than that, but a darn CAPTCHA got me on another website. But Sony started offering being able to purchase PS5s through their actual website, and I was able to get one. To play it in November of 2021, I got my PlayStation, I migrated everything over, and I popped in the disc, and I was getting artifacting. Apparently it was an APU issue, there was nothing I could do about it. Push come to shove, Sony support was stellar, but I got it sometime around like December 20th, and I was very happy about that. For me, positives can be a number of things, and I think Bluepoint did a fantastic job with this remake. I have watched several videos of people comparing the two games from the PS3 to the PS5, and the amount of work that Bluepoint put into the environments and all the extra little details that a lot of people didn't take the time to look at is mind-boggling. But the cool thing about that is that they actually put in a photo mode, which I think is great because it gave me time to pause the game, look at all these little details that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to. So good job Bluepoint adding that in and adding those little details that a lot of people will not notice. The environmental storytelling because of that is awesome. It is. It's fantastic. And then on to my next point is going to be the Archstone System. I know a lot of people like the bonfire system in the Souls game, the map system / Site of Grace in Elden Ring, but for me, the central hub of Demon's Souls is absolutely fantastic. I know in the other games you can just rush off to where you want to go if you know what you're doing, but I like the centralized location. I think it grounds the game, gives a player a place they can go and do stuff, maybe rethink things, upgrade their weapons, all that other stuff. And I know you have like Firelink in Dark Souls, and you have the Round Table in Elden Ring, you have the Hunter's Dream with Bloodborne, but in my opinion, you can tell that a lot of these things were built upon from the Archstone system, and I honestly like the Archstone system a lot better. You can see how they took the system with the Archstone and tweaked it a little bit, and moving forward in future games, they used similar systems to be able to utilize more things. But in my opinion, the aspect of where it started honestly was really great for the time, and you can see the ideas they had and wanted to put forth, and I think that's great. I also liked all the different classes you could start as. I think they did a really good job explaining, and honestly, out of all the tutorials in all the games, I think Demon's Souls did it best. Now, Dark Souls 2 tried to sort of redo what Demon's Souls did, but they did it worse, but that's a whole another video. I think the most important part is how it ramps up, and when you get to the end of the tutorial area, it's like, oh yeah, this game's gonna be hard. And I think they did that beautifully. As far as the remake goes, I absolutely love the facial animations of the NPCs, how they talk, their face expressions, everything, their mannerisms. I think Bluepoint did a great job with this. And also kudos to the voice actors as well, because I am pretty sure they used facial tracking to be able to get the reactions and the mouth syncing with these voice actors, and all around that, coupled with the software that they used to do this, in my opinion, was great. Now, that doesn't attest for the original game because I've never played it. Demon's Souls on PS3, I don't know. And now on to the negatives I didn't like about this. There are certain areas in this game that you could tell that the enemy placement was just intentionally done to stopgap the player from progressing further unless they went to another area. I'm not talking like, hey, you need to get this key first or anything else like that. I'm talking, hey, we're gonna put this hard enemy here in this placement here in this group of enemies. So if you don't have XYZ and you're not level XYZ, then guess what? You're gonna get wrecked unless you know how to get around this and you're a god tier player. And you can see how in Dark Souls 2 they tried to implement something like that, and a lot of people don't like that. They implemented a lot of these places just to try to make the player not like the area, which is why I like the camera mode, because you can pause and look at things and look at these wonderful environments. But back to the negatives. Then you've got a lot of the bosses. There's a good variety here for the bosses with how big the game is, but at times you can tell that these bosses were reworked. And there's one particular boss, without going into spoilers, that I wanted to talk about that's closer to the end of the game. In my opinion, was a really easy boss given how the end of the game is. The lead up to the boss was more difficult than the actual boss themselves. In my opinion, it was a letdown for me. So that's why it's a negative. And then there's multiple bosses at once. There's a certain boss in a certain place where there's multiple at once. And this is no testament to Blue Point. They literally were just moving what was done from the PS3 version over. But this boss still is hot dog water, for a lack of better terms. And now on to the Moongrass situation. And I know several people love the Moongrass system in this game, but I personally didn't like it. And I'm going to explain why. So let's say that you are trying to play this game as blind as possible. You've never played Demon's Souls before, and if you're listening to this, I hope you've never played it before, and this convinces you to at least play it, but that's beside the point. And you're in an area that's relatively a little more difficult because you don't know the order you're supposed to play this in. Yes, there's a certain order you're supposed to play this in, but nobody tells you, and unless you look it up online, you don't know, so you could just stumble into a hard area. So you're in this area, and you have your Moongrass, which is your heals. And then let's say you're stuck someplace and you have no way of getting back and you're just out of grass. Now, that's a negative for me. Now, granted, they did do different stuff in the future games, like with the flask system, that you always start with a certain amount of heals. You could tell that they sort of made that they're like, oh crap, this isn't as fun as we thought it was going to be for people. So, we're going to change this. But it is a negative. Because if you run out of grass and you're stuck in a difficult place, you're out of luck. You're going to have to just keep powering through and keep dying over and over until you get back to a place where you can start finding more grass. Now, they sort of did something similar in Bloodborne with the blood vials, but in my opinion, it's better implemented in Bloodborne, but this isn't Bloodborne. This is Demon's Souls. Let's talk about that upgrade system. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Let's say you have a weapon, a sword that you want to upgrade. And let's say you want it to be fire-based. Well, did you know that there is a convoluted system for upgrading? Some weapons need to be up to a certain level before you can upgrade them to other things like fire-based. And if you go past that, guess what? You have to downgrade, and you have to pay souls and chunks and stones to be able to get it to the right level. So you could have to redo your whole weapon. Unless you look up this convoluted chart online, that is absolutely something that nobody should have to do because it's never explained in the game, and it is absolutely reprehensible that they thought this was okay back in 2009. It's just not. And in typical FromSoft fashion, I wanted to talk about the NPC storylines and how they're very hidden and convoluted. You can go through the whole game and not run into any storylines if you're just playing through, but honestly, if you are exploring and doing other things in the game, then yeah, it's a pretty big possibility that you could run into some, but they're very rudimentary and they don't really change much of the ending, which is, that's another negative, but we'll talk about that in a second. But it's very frustrating, especially if you're wanting to experience the whole game and try to do as much as possible. You have to look up a guide. You do. And replayability is a negative for me. And the reason why it's a negative for me is this alone. If you're wanting to replay this game to do a different aspect of the story, it doesn't really change much for how things work out. It's just little bullet points and certain little things that change, very subtle differences as far as the story and the impact goes. It feels like you're just rereading a book for the second time, except this time from somebody else's perspective, and it's already determined and you already know the ending. And that leads to the last part, the world tendencies. Oh my word. You can tell what they wanted to try to implement with the world tendencies, but the implementation that actually happened was absolute hogwash. Absolute hogwash. I'm literally sitting here at Google right now, and there's 17.5 million results trying to explain world tendency in this game. And if you have 17.5 million results trying to explain an aspect of your game that you don't even touch on in that much of the overview, then I think you did something wrong. Here we are at the end of the video, and I want y'all not to think that I don't like this game, because I absolutely adore this game. I think it's a fantastic game, especially the remake. Blue Point, good job to y'all. Y'all did a great job, and from what people who loved the 2009 version, they said it was a beautiful, beautiful remake. You did a fantastic job in all aspects. Now, is this game worth $60? No, this game's not worth $60. If you can get it for less than $60, yeah, you get it for less than $60. If you're just a hardcore FromSoft fan and you've never played Demon's Souls before on the PS3, then yeah, get it. I think it's worth it. You'll have a good, 30, 60, 80 hours maybe in this game. Now, I always give a score. And, I played the PS5 version, so I can't talk about the PS3 version. But when I originally played this game, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. And if you have a PS5 and you enjoy FromSoft games and you haven't played Demon's Souls, get Demon's Souls. It's worth it. Just remember, most of all, embrace that you died and you'll have a good time. Thank you so much for watching.